Hello all, welcome back to the next one. In this one, we'll take a look at the next listener, which is ITestListener. So let me just bring up Eclipse and let's get started. So I still have my testng-listeners.xml file, and in the listeners package, let's create another class. So, or maybe you know what, I'll just copy this. So I've selected the file, Control C or Command C, and then Control C or Command V to copy it. And then we can name it as custom listener 2 and click OK. And then we'll change this file definitely. So I want to delete these two methods, the before invocation and after invocation. And I want to delete this also because we will not implement the same interface in this one, in this lecture. So we will implement ITest and then control space, and then let's filter listener. So ITestListener. Do not use ITestNG listener. Do not get confused. We will use ITestListener from org.testng. And then we will implement the unimplemented methods. So now we have all these methods. On test start, on test success, on test failure, and then on test skipped, and on test failed but within success percentage, and on start and on finish. So there are a lot of methods inside this inside this interface. So let me just delete the unused import packages. So let's understand these methods and let's use them. Let's try to use them so we get a feel of it. The first one we here see is on test start, right? So this method is executed when any test method starts. So I'm going to write it so we learn it. When test method starts. And by test method, we mean the actual test method with the @test annotation. So you know what? Let's side by side create a test class also. So TestNG underscore listeners test1. I'm going to copy this and name it as listeners test2. Click OK. So we have a test class also right now. It is using a previous listener. So we will change it to custom listener 2 dot class, and from here also we will change the import statement. So it stops complaining right now. Now take a look at it. We have a lot of different kind of methods inside the test class. We have the setup method with before class annotation, cleanup method with after class annotation, and then actual test methods with @test annotation. So on test start method, this one, the one we are overriding here, this only executes when test method starts. So when the actual @test method starts, it will not execute before the @before class or @after class or the other @before and after methods. So it will only run on the test methods. So basically this is the test start one. Let's print a line as well so we understand it. So CISO. I'm going to print the name of this method so we know from where the print statement is coming. And maybe we will say, so test name. And now we will just use the result dot get name method. So this will give us the name of the test method, right? So after on test start, we have on test success. So the name is very obvious for this, right? This will run when the test method is successful. That's very, very easy to understand. So, and we're printing the name of the test, so we will know from where it's coming. And let's add a comment. So when test method is, or maybe we can say if test method is successful. That's it. This is pretty easy to understand. Same thing as this on test failure method. This will execute if the test method is fail. So I'm just copying these lines so we can save some typing time here, and it's almost the same thing that we want to print here. So the only thing we will change here is if this is failed, right? After this we have on test skipped. It's again the same thing. If the test method is skipped, currently I'm not printing anything. It's almost going to be the same thing because we're not going to skip any test method right now. But if you have some test skip and you want to do something, then put your logic inside this method, on test skipped method. There's one more method which is kind of actually I don't use it. I don't find it very useful also. Only in some places you might find it useful depending on your application. But this one says on test failed but within success percentage. So this means that the test is failed, but you might have some kind of scenario where you may say that I have a criteria where I have 6 assertion points inside one test method maybe, and if 5 of them are successful, then I still want the test case to be successful. So that kind of thing, which we usually do not do in testing and automation. If something is failed, then we just want to say it's failed because we want it to be properly debugged. And if something is failing, we want to isolate it and put it in a separate test case so we don't mess up with everything else, right? So I don't really find it very useful. That's why I usually say that just ignore this one, because I don't want to use it and I don't want people to get confused with this. So I would just say ignore this. Now we have on start. So we can see that this starts before the test tag of XML file. So there is a difference in this and on test start. The on test start method will execute when the test method start. The test method is @test annotation. But the on start method, this will execute before the test tag of XML file. So in our XML file, we can have multiple test tags, right? Now let's just copy this and have one more. So I'm going to say this is application test 1 and this is application test 2. And in the second test, I'll call the TestListeners2 class. So in the first test tag, I'm calling TestListeners1 class, and the second one I'm calling the listeners test 2 class, right? So basically now I have 2 test tags. And in the custom listener, we have on start and on finish. So let's just copy this. Okay, I think I should copy this system.out.println to this as well. And also I should copy the comment so we know what's happening. So this one, we will say it happens before test tag. So I'm going to write it so you understand the difference. Test tag of XML file. Test tag of XML file. It does not work on test method, on test tag. Now we'll just say this is from on start and this is test tag name, and we can use, so the name of the variable is context, we can use context dot get name. So now since this is iTest context and this is iTest result, this will give us the name of the test method, and context dot get name will give us the name of the test tag. That's very easy. It's really smart. Now I'm gonna, actually what we should do here is, I'm just taking an example what we can do inside these methods. So maybe inside on start, I may want to print all the names of methods that exist in this class, or maybe all the classes, because we might have more than one class here. So maybe we want to just say that on test tag start, I want to print the name of all the methods inside that test tag. So what we can do here is we can actually get the name of all the test methods. So I'm going to use ITest ng method. This is the type, and we will say, let's say methods, and this is an array. So we define an array equals context dot get all test methods. So there is a method provided by TestNG which says get all test methods. It will get us the name of all the test methods, and here we want to import ITestNG method from org.testng. Now I'll print maybe something which is meaningful. So we'll say these methods will be executed in this test tag, right? Something like that. And then we can do a for loop, and the for loop I'll say ITestNG method, and method inside all the methods, because this is the array we defined. And then we can just simply print the method name. So I'm going to say method. So this variable I'm using, this is just a for each loop, very simple, dot get method name, and this will print all the method names. So this is kind of one use of onStart method, and basically this is kind of an example that I'm showing, but it may depend on your application what you want to do. The whole purpose of understanding is the concept that what exactly we want to do on test start, what exactly we want to do on test is when test is successful, what exactly we want to do when test is failed. Maybe you have a web application and you want to take screenshots when something is failed. So maybe this is one of the great example for that, right? So there are several implementations that you may want to use these things with. So on finish is again same thing. It executes when and actually after the test tag of the XML file. So instead of before, we can just say after, and we can simply print this one. So this is coming from on finish, and the name of the test tag will be printed. That's about it. So we have kind of implemented all the methods. It's all done. In this TestNG listeners 2, we are listening to custom listener 2 class and TestNG listeners here. So here also I want to actually use the same class, test listeners 2 class, because listeners test 1 class is listening to some other listener, and we don't want to change the existing code. The same methods will be run anyway. The methods are same in both the classes. The whole thing we want to understand is how the listeners were called. So that's about it here. So now let's just try to run the listeners XML file. So right click and run as TestNG suite. So many things happen, right? And one thing very important, because we are using the custom listener and we are using these methods on start, on finish, and they are from the test tag in XML file, we have to use the XML file. We cannot just right click and run the test file, because those methods will not be executed. So the code was run. Let's go over everything in detail. First thing what happened was on start was run, right? The test tag name is application test 1. And then in on start we implemented the name. It fetched the names of the methods, right? So these methods will be executed in these test tag, and we wrote this. It got the name of both the methods, test method 1 and test method 2, and then code in before class executed, and then on test start executed, because then test method 1 was about to execute. Then code inside test method 1 was executed, and this was successful. So on test success executed, and the name of the test method is test method 1. Then on test start executed for test method 2, then the code inside this executed test method 2. And take a look here, on test failure got executed in test method 2. Why that happened? Because in test method 2 we are asserting true and we are providing false here. So it's obviously gonna fail, and we did it intentionally because we wanted to show that when the test method is successful, on test success will be called, and if the test method is failed, on test failure will be called. So not everything will run every time. It depends on the event that is happening, and that's why these things are listeners, right? They are very clever, very intelligent. Then code in after class executed, then on finish executed for the test tag 1, which is application test 1. Here we can see that. And then everything in similar way will start for application test 2, the test tag 2. So let's take a look at the output. So on start executed for application test 2, the same things will be executed, and on finish executed here at the end. So that's the benefit of these listeners. And these might be one good replacement of things that we put in the base test class. I mean, not everything can be replaced, but definitely these are very smart things, and we can use these instead of having the before suite or before test in our base test class. But it again depends on the practice that you want to follow and kind of application, kind of functionality that you have. But it's a very good feature. TestNG listeners are really, really smart. And we can get the name of the class, name of the method from where it's getting called. So we can use everything here. That's about it. That's what I wanted to talk in this one. Please download the code files, practice as much as possible, and let me know if you have any questions. I'll see you in the next lectures. Thanks for ending this one.